Number 1. Porsche and Ferrari have the same horse on their logo, like the exact same one, because Porsche's logo is derived from the crest of their hometown in Stuttgart, Germany, while Ferrari's horse is an homage to the Italian fighter pilot who famously shot down a German plane over Stuttgart in World War I. Number 2. No Porsche has ever had a grille. And before you ask, no, that's not a grille, that's an air vent. The difference is, air vents are purely functional, whereas grilles have the task of defining the car's face alongside its brand. And since Porsche had always had their engines in the back, they didn't need one, which kind of became a part of their style. Number 3. Porsche hates it when people mispronounce their name. So much so, they released an official video on how to pronounce it correctly. And you kind of feel their frustration in the video because it sounds like they're explaining it to children.
Porsche. Porsche.
But to be fair, it is mostly children who argue about it. And yes, we do intend to say it the wrong way for the whole video. Number 4. When it was unveiled in 1963, the 911 was originally called the 901, but with Peugeot being the annoying, joyless crybabies that they are, they decided to channel their inner Karen, and they threatened to sue Porsche for copyright infringement, because somehow Peugeot had managed to copyright every 3-digit number that has a 0 in the middle, and since Porsche didn't think a single digit deserved a lawsuit, they turned the 0 into a 1, and the 911 was legally born. Number 5. As a way to show off the active air suspension on the Panamera Hybrid, Porsche paired one to the gyroscopic sensor of an iPhone to do this. Also, when the developers handed the phone to the journalists, their only note was, "Don't flip the phone, we haven't tested that yet." Number 6. The Porsche logo always points down to the valve stem of the wheel. Number 7. All motorsports combined, Porsche has won over 30,000 races. Number 8. Porsches are known for their reliability. In fact, 2/3 of the 911s made in the past 60 years are still on the road today, or sitting pretty in a garage somewhere. Number 9. From the 60s all the way up to the 90s, the Dutch police used Porsches as their patrol cars because of their handling, reliability, and speed. Also, thanks to their rear-mounted air-cooled engines, they were great at pursuits where they had to be driven in reverse for extended periods of time. That was an actual argument the police used to convince the government. Number 10. In 2017, the Porsche Cayenne S diesel set a world record by towing an Airbus A380 that weighed 285 tons. Number 11. The first appearance of the iconic Porsche logo was on the steering wheel of the 356 in 1952, but it took 7 more years for the logo to be placed on their hubcaps and another 6 years to be featured on their hoods. Number 12. Although driving a Porsche isn't easy, it's also not that hard, especially with all the driver assists. But that wasn't always the case. In fact, they were so sketchy back in the 60s that Porsche welded cast iron blocks to their bumpers, making their cars heavier and giving them more traction, kind of like training wheels but less effective. Number 13. Only 2 918s made it out of the factory without any paint on them whatsoever. Why? To save weight, 14 pounds to be exact. Number 14. Currently the best-selling Porsche is the Macan. Number 15. This is the 956C, and it had so much downforce at 200 miles per hour that it could be driven upside down. So naturally, Porsche hung it upside down at their museum. Number 16. There's a very real and big issue with Porsches being stolen right now. Sorry, with their headlights being stolen. Because the Panamera and the Cayenne have a design flaw that allows you to remove the headlights in a matter of seconds. The one time a German engineer decided to make life easy for a mechanic, and this is how they do it. Number 17. In the early 2000s, Porsche designed a 5.7-liter V10 engine to use in their LMP race cars, but due to new regulations, they weren't allowed to use it anymore. So they decided to build a car around it, and that's why we have the Carrera GT, which sounds like this. Number 18. Porsche made over 120,000 tractors between 1956 and 1963. Number 19. After being absent for 17 years, Porsche decided to return to the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2014. Excited to have a playmate, Audi decided to welcome them back. In their own way, of course. But 3 years later, the shoe was on the other foot, and Audi was the one pulling out. Heartbroken and slightly hormonal, Porsche did what would be the equivalent of holding a boombox outside of Audi's window. But sadly, Audi didn't come back, and Porsche left a year later. Number 20. The 918 has the same key fob as the base model Cayenne. Number 21. The Panamera was Porsche's first sedan. Actually, it was the first one to make it into production, since they made the 989 prototype in 1988, which still looks as inbred as the Panamera. Number 22. Porsche designs award-winning forklifts. Number 23. In 1978, Porsche tried to replace the 911 with the 928 because they thought a front-engine sports car had more potential and the 911 had reached its limits. Yet here we are 46 years later. Number 24. Porsche profits an average of $17,000 on each car they sell. As a point of reference, Toyota only profits $2,700 per car. Number 25. For some reason, Porsche has optional leather air vents, which cost around $1,700. Number 26. In 1945, Ferdinand Porsche, the founder of Porsche, was arrested for committing war crimes in World War II because he was close friends with you-know-who, and he built weapons and tanks for the German military. But 2 years later, he was released and deemed not guilty. Number 27. Porsche's doors don't have a fixed position, meaning you can leave them at any angle and they will stay there. Number 28. Porsche introduced the 911 Targa back in 1965 because they heard rumors that America was going to ban convertibles, so they thought they'd get ahead of it by making a semi-convertible. Number 29. Almost all Porsches had the ignition key on the left side of the steering wheel, because back in the day when Le Mans had a running start, drivers were able to turn the key and put the car in gear simultaneously, saving precious time. And since it was quirky and Porsche were inherently theatrical, they decided to use it on their road cars as well. Number 30. The 919 Hybrid Evo holds the all-time Nürburgring lap record of 5 minutes and 19 seconds. Number 31. In the late 1930s, Ferdinand Porsche designed the VW Beetle for the German government, with the first one being built in Ferdinand's private villa. Number 32. The Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo broke the altitude world record when it traveled 1,600 miles with an altitude change of 4,800 meters, which is around 3 miles. It also holds the EV drift record for drifting 26 miles without stopping. Number 33. This cool old thing is a Porsche 959. And rally heritage aside, one of the most interesting things about this car is its gearbox, the Galant gear to be exact, because Porsche claims that the G stood for off-road, and since it was a rally car, it made sense. But many believe it was actually used to help the car pass the noise regulations, because with the first gear being replaced with G, that means the car would start in second gear, allowing it to have lower revs as it drives off, making it quieter. But what do you think? Number 34. Fans have deemed the 914 to be the worst Porsche ever made. Because, well, just look at the sad little bastard. Number 35. You've probably heard the words Club Sport package being thrown around by tall, lanky dudes wearing Porsche hats and Omega watches, and you probably don't know what it means. Well, it's a completely free package that you can order with your Porsche, which gives you a bolt-on rear roll cage, a 6-point driver's side seat belt, a battery kill switch, and a portable fire extinguisher. But there's a catch. To be eligible for this free package, you must first pay good money for bucket seats. Number 36. Without the Cayenne, Porsche would be bankrupt. Number 37. Speaking of bankruptcy, when Porsche nearly went bankrupt in the 90s, they hired former Toyota engineers to reorganize their production line and supply chain to make them more efficient. Number 38. The center wheel lugs on the driver's side of the Carrera GT are painted red, while the passenger side are painted blue because of the difference in the thread directions. Number 39. Jeremy Clarkson invented the word yeet in 1998 while pouring acid on a 911.
Ooh, yeet. Yeet.